Henry! Henry!
Yes, my dear.
Go to the well and fetch me some water, so I can do my victuals.
Right away, my dear. I'll get my little bucket. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, a hole.
Fix it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then fix it, dear Henry, plug it.
With what shall I fix it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I fix it, dear Liza? With what?
Straw, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Try straw, dear Henry, try hay.
But the straw is too long, dear Liza, dear Liza. The straw is too long, dear Liza, too long.
Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then cut it, dear Henry, chop it.
With what shall I cut it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I cut it, dear Liza? With what?
Try a knife, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Try a knife, dear Henry, or an axe.
But the blade is too dull, dear Liza, dear Liza. The blade is too dull, dear Liza, too dull.
Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, hone it.
With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza? With what?
A stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Try a stone, dear Henry, or try half a brick.
The stone is too dry, dear Liza, dear Liza. The stone is too dry, dear Liza, too dry.
Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Then wet it, dear Henry, soak it.
With what shall I wet it, dear Liza, dear Liza? With what shall I wet it, dear Liza? With what?
Dry water, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Try water, dear Henry. Try H2O.
In what shall I fetch it, dear Liza, dear Liza? In what shall I fetch it, dear Liza? In what?
Try a bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry. Try a bucket, dear Henry, bucket.
Oh dear, she's not gonna like this. But there's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, dear Liza. There's a hole in my bucket, dear Liza, a hole. Oh, that hurt. That that was a ming, you know. Oh, there's a hole in my ear. Oh no, there's a bucket up my no.